following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Every day, citizens around the country are faced with new dilemmas that affect them profoundly. Whether it's injustice, discrimination, falling through the cracks, scandals and cronyism, balances of power, ethics, religious freedoms, state versus citizens, and unfunded mandates, and the list goes on and on and on. Welcome to Speak Up. It's directed at those who have fallen through the cracks, and it gives them a voice. It's your turn to speak up, to stand up and fight back. Welcome to Speak Up. I'm Kevin Avard, your host, and today we are going to be revisiting an old topic that we've discussed over and over and over again with my guest, Audra Schwoerer.
Okay.
Hey, we got it right. I got it right, folks. That's unusual. So welcome to the show, Audra.
Thank you.
And the old topic is basically this whole idea with the family courts. Again, when I was in the House as the state representative, we saw case after case after case of abuses of the family courts. And I thought that was just New Hampshire. And over time, I hear stories from Florida and Tennessee, Texas, California, Pennsylvania. They all start coming out of the woodwork saying, this is an industry. At one time, we had an interview with somebody who actually created a movie called Divorce Corp in California. And it's an industry, and basically it's an industry that seems to thrive on the controversy of a bad thing, obviously, of a tragic situation in divorce. And the real victims overall are not just the children, but the children missing their parents.
Yeah.
And that's where I want to, let's just go over your case, because from time to time, I hear guys saying, you know, it's just guys. You know, the courts are just beating the heck out of guys, and they do.
Yeah.
But they do this to women as well.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit about your background. Are you from New Hampshire? Or?
I'm actually from Florida.
Oh.
I'm a transplant. I've been up here for 18 years, and I came here for work. So I've worked in a hospital environment for 25 years. And
You doctor, nurse?
I'm a neurodiagnostic technologist.
Oh, one of those.
Yeah. So I do nerve monitoring.
Wow.
So intraoperative monitoring and all kinds of, and anything to do with the nerves, that's what I do.
So in the professional field.
Yeah.
And you've been doing that for a while. Mm-hmm. And you had a divorce in 2006?
2006. It was final.
And how long did that take, the whole process?
About a year. 2005 is when we separated. We were under temporary orders, and then it was final in 2006.
The temporary orders, can you tell us what is the temporary orders? What does that mean, that terminology?
That's a tough process too, because I think for everyone it's a 50-50 schedule.
Meaning with the children?
With the children.
With the assets?
With the children, usually in separate residences, but at that point. And you're lying in wait, hashing out either financial or schedule with the children, whatever the issues are. But
any background of violence in your background? Any?
No.
I'm going to ask you mental histories of anything that would say a red flag. You're a risk for the children.
No.
Ever? And no speeding tickets?
No.
Nothing. No road rage.
No.
Okay. You haven't picked on any patients and
no.
Poking them a little bit too hard. I'm being very facetious, but
yeah.
So basically, you got a clean background.
Yes.
There was nothing to warrant you being investigated then as possibly an unfit parent.
No.
Were you ever adjudicated as an unfit parent?
No.
So nobody said, Audra, you got issues. You need to go see a shrink or a psychologist or a physical or mental therapist or anything like that.
No.
Interesting. So you had custody of your children. And tell us about that whole process, how you've gone from having 50-50, maybe 60-40?
Yeah, I don't know exactly percentage-wise, but a little bit more than by a day. I think I had an extra day, for a week. So, it was like a little bit more than 50%. I'm not sure if it even 60%. So it's very close to a 50-50 schedule.
All right. So the children were going to school, and you live in Bedford? Right. And the children were going to school in Bedford?
Initially, they were going to Nashua Christian Academy in Nashua, and I worked at Southern New Hampshire Medical Center, so I would take them to school every day. We agreed for our boys to be there, and then after the first year, he refused to split the tuition with me. So I continued to keep them there on the advice of their counselor for the following 3 years, and I paid for that myself. Right. And then it just, when things started to, get heavy in litigation, I was no longer able to keep them there, and I took them out and put them into the Bedford public school system. Okay,
and you live in Bedford?
Yes.
So during this process, you're talking 2006, and you're coming on, it's 2014.
Yeah.
We're looking at 15, yeah, right around the corner. Something broke down, even after obviously the divorce. Can you kind of give us a timeline? What happened?
Well, it was never really good following the parenting schedule. It was always difficult. No communication. Not being, the kids that were at the time were 3 and 5, so they didn't have a heavy schedule then, but they did take karate in Manchester and activities at school, things like that. Anything that happened on their father's parenting time became an issue because it became my activity instead of the boys' activity. So it was not willing to follow through on carrying out the boys' schedule that we'd agreed on. So, but regardless of anything, I would just make adjustments, push through it, change my schedule, pay for it, or whatever required to just get through it. And I did that for years. And everybody would say, eventually, it'll settle down, and smooth out, and it just never did. When we were going through the divorce process, the first guardian ad litem that he asked into the case actually wanted to have psych evals done, and because he felt that there were issues
with you or with the children?
With their father, and both attorneys were in a rush to close and settle, and so they weren't done. And had they been done, I would have not spent the last 9 years doing what I've been doing.
Are you sure?
I am very sure.
So he requested psych eval, and
the guardian ad litem. The guardian ad litem did.
And the guardian ad litem asked for a psych eval on him.
When you have a psych eval done on one parent, the other parent also has to subject themselves to it.
What warranted that?
It was a behavior.
On yours or
on his part?
On
yeah.
his part.
Yeah.
And it was never followed through.
It was never followed through. No, they wanted to just close with the parenting plan that we had eventually agreed to, which was agreed to all in one day at my attorney's office with a bottle of water from 8 o'clock in the morning until 5:30 at night, no food, and literally going between 2 offices bantering back and forth.
What in that initial guardian ad litem's report, was it accepted by the courts? And
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
And there was a recommendation, it was never followed through.
Yes.
And you said you've gone through 3 guardian ad litem's?
Yes, and the number 5 was just appointed.
Okay, so there's 1 guardian ad litem. May I ask you how much it cost you?
I believe it was $1,000 then for
that one's
the
still
first
private.
one. Yeah.
So was it supposedly closed after that? The case closed?
Yep.
All right, all done. Parenting plans all set. Guardian ad litem made a recommendation. No follow through with the basic psych eval. It just went forward, closed.
Yep. Closed, and
right.
we just started on our path.
And so you had 50-50 custody.
Yeah, close to that. I had a little bit more than 50-50.
Okay.
And I had primary custodial, you know.
Okay. And so now time goes on, and correct me if I'm wrong, when visitations came or didn't come, he wouldn't follow through with his end of the bargain.
Yeah.
And how would you enforce that?
You can't enforce it.
Right, so he wouldn't show up, or he wouldn't drop the kids off, or he
it'd
wouldn't
be
pick
late,
the kids.
or, you know, there was always an issue.
Right. And so then you say, oh, I've had enough of this, and that's why another guardian ad litem is brought back to the table?
Well, things kind of went that way, and, you know, we struggled, and then in 2008, the boys didn't come home following the weekend with him. And it was, you know, they were young, so it's not like they had cell phones or even knew where they were half the time when they, but that was part of the...
Where are they?
Yeah,
and
where are they? No answering the phone. You know, even if you're going to be late, you know, if you're going to be late, that's fine, but call and say, you know, we're running late, you know, we'll be there at such and such time. But come Monday morning when they're supposed to arrive home, and I have a sitter there waiting for them because I worked full time, the sitter calls and said they're not here, you know, and then I call them, you know, no answer. And after that incident, and we almost had an Amber Alert with that because he wasn't responding to his own attorney. After that,
When did they come home?
They were finally home at about 1:30 that afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah, he finally responded, and he got them home. And no explanation, just, you know, having a weekend up north, and just you know, decided to just keep them. So after that, I retained another attorney and decided that, you know, something needed to be done. And they suggested a parenting coordinator. The guardian ad litems at that time had, you know, wasn't working. That started to at least come out. And that now they had started to employ what was called a parenting coordinator.
A friend of the court?
Yeah, I'm not really sure how, you know, how different they are from a guardian ad litem, really. But I was open to anything, you know.
Can I just ask, these parenting coordinators, are they psychologists? Are they counselors? Are they part of Bridges? Are they part of an extension to the courts? Are they had to get these people from somewhere?
For parenting coordinators, I'm not entirely sure what the requirements.
Who dropped them into the picture, though? Was it did you seek these people out, or did the court seek them out for you?
I sought the parenting coordinator. I sought help. Okay. Is what I sought, because I'm
just trying to find out what the genesis of where they fit into this, because they're not necessarily mandated by the courts.
I went to an attorney, and she said, the courts aren't going to fix this. You know, would you be open to getting a parenting coordinator involved? And I said, you know, absolutely. I was open to any third party that could bring reason into this and to help me, you know, close in the boundaries, to at least enable me to have recourse when he wasn't going to follow the parenting plan, because, I would miss work. I would still be paying a babysitter.
So that was the one time, but of many instances where
Yes.
there would be not a phone call or it didn't show up again. So that
that was the
a
last
pattern.
straw.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I want to know where the kids are. It's my responsibility. I make plans. So let's be courteous and work with me, and I'll work with you. And okay. And so it didn't work out. So you reached out for this organization. What authority would they have to enforce the parenting plan?
None, really.
All
None.
right.
None. But you don't know that. When you're just getting started in all of this, and you don't understand how it works, you actually think that something's going to be done, about it if it's
They'll
if it's
advocate
not.
for the kids and for you and
Yes,
for
or
the
you'll,
family.
something.
Right. And so you paid these people, obviously.
Yeah.
May I ask how much?
The parenting coordinator, gosh, after a while, it
It turns
you
into a
just
big
start writing
blur.
out checks.
Right.
It does. It turns
Yeah.
into a big blur.
And the reason
But
I'm asking
probably
for
another
these-
$1,000, I
another
think,
1,000.
something
So
like that.
People need to understand that it's just, 1,000 here, 1,000 there, 5,000
They
here.
use it up quickly,
It-
and you end
right.
up having to. They get extensions.
Were they helpful at all?
No.
Okay. And so you tried to get somebody, an outside force, not part of the court system, to, hey, look, let's come together. We'll do a mediation, and we'll try to fix the fact that you're not being responsible.
Yes.
And of course, that didn't work. So then, there's
No,
another
because
guard-
you come in with your problems. Okay, the problems is this, this, and this. They don't really help solve any problems. You just go in there and
They identify
talk
them.
about it.
Right.
And I don't need anybody to talk about these things. I need the problems solved. And like with the parenting coordinator, that began our era of the undefined week. What's the definition of a week? It took me 3 years for my ex-husband and his attorney to agree to actually, they never agreed to what a week is. It took the court to decide for us what the definition of a week is, because that's what was written in the parenting plan, is a week. Well, what's a week? And there begins, the game.
7 days.
Well, no, to the parenting coordinator, it was 7 different days that you could then piece together, over the calendar. So when it came to summer vacation, and you get 3 weeks and I get 3 weeks, well, my ex-husband wanted to take the 3 weeks and plot them around his already existing parenting time, and then that left you with, 5 days of the summer.
I see.
If it was his priority summer.
Just being smart.
And so when I said to I thought, surely you don't understand what is being said here, because I said, next summer is my priority summer. So then I'm going to take my 3 weeks and I'm going to plug them in over the summer, and I have more parenting time than he does, and he won't see the kids at all. And he said, you would do that. And I thought, okay, I'm not going to be able to, this is not somebody that's going to be able to help us with the problem, because that's just totally unreasonable. So all I wanted to know was, what's the definition of a week? It didn't matter what the definition of a week was. We just needed one so I could work with it. But that's part of the game. The attorney isn't interested in honing in on what the definition of a week is, because then that gives them, more things to play with and to create controversy with. It's not solving problems. So yeah, believe it or not, and not having a definition of a week created unbelievable problems.
And were you paying his attorney by any chance?
No.
Okay.
No.
So, all right, now we're working on the definition of a week, and things are starting to break down all over again, like you're married. Another guardian ad litem is brought into the picture. How did that happen?
Well, he remarried and decided that he wanted to have the boys full time. It was said when we first divorced, he had told our oldest son, who was 5, that he was going to find him a new mommy, and that terrified him. And he thought that when I first started seeing my now husband, his father told him, you know, when your mom marries again, her name is going to change, and she's not going to be a part of our family anymore. And he thought that that meant that I was just going to leave. I was just going to be gone. And so the whole, you know, goal really was to get the boys from me, and not allow the boys to have a relationship with me. The whole alienation track. So what he did was, after he remarried, he upped the controversy, and then does the what they refer to as stalking through the courts. So when you're constantly filing and you have to constantly respond and be engaged, either have an attorney retained or start responding to the court, then he wanted another guardian ad litem. So then started guardian ad litem number 3. And that was a year and a half.
Who is his attorney?
Now is Gail Backus.
Who was his original attorney?
With Wigan and Nuri. He was with Wigan and Nuri.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Who was the judge, may I ask?
Our original, the judge at this point, because we started off with Leonard Green, actually finalized our divorce, and then we went to Paul Moore.
And he's not your current judge?
No, they kind of like, they move in and out. I noticed they kind of shuffle around the district
court
courts.
to court.
Yeah.
That's interesting. At this point, he gets another guardian ad litem. Does the court adjudicate you again? I've asked you this question, you've answered it, but I'm going to ask it again. Were you adjudicated as an unfit parent?
Yeah.
And so, you know, what he says to the kids, obviously that's getting, you know, that's getting really into the muck of the things, and this happens all the time. So one parent alienates another, and it's manipulative, and it has lasting effects.
Yeah, it does.
Lasting effects, not just on you, but on the kids.
Oh, yeah.
For the rest of their lives. But, so now the guardian ad litem is brought into the picture again. Was there a probable cause for this guardian ad litem being brought in? Was there activity that said, look, Your Honor, she's beating him with a frying pan. She says, no, but I need somebody to come in and advocate for these children that are at risk. It's a beautiful word. There are children that really are at risk that do get abused. But in cases when they're not, it's a beautiful phrase to start a process. So what warranted the courts granting him another guardian ad litem? What was his probable cause?
He wanted to have more parenting time, and he claimed that I was alienating the children from him, interfering with his communications with the children, and scheduling our children's activities on his parenting time. Well, by this time they're in junior high, or middle school. And, you know, the socialization schedule goes way up. And they were busy. They just started playing sports. They had music lessons.
Was he involved with their sports?
Yes, as much as my oldest son at play sports.
Was he involved with the teachers and going to parent-teachers conferences and all that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Just with our older son, though.
Okay.
I have to say more. He's always been hyper focused on our oldest son, and not our youngest son.
Okay. And so the guardian ad litem comes into the picture, gets into your life again.
Yeah.
Did they interview you?
Yes, I interviewed with him once.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
And do you know if he interviewed the husband as well?
Yes.
And he does that with the children. He interviews
and
the
then
children.
he saw each of the children, but both times that he saw the children, they were not with me. So he only saw them when they were with their father.
Mm-hmm. And how they react in front of him.
I guess I don't I don't know.
What was his conclusion?
That
You saw the report.
Yeah, there wasn't any one thing. It wasn't a report. There were 3 of them, and they were like 13, 15 pages long, and they contained things that had nothing. It was bizarre. Had things in there that had nothing to do with what was going on. Things that just simply weren't true. And it was.
What defense do you have against a false report?
You don't. Well, the first report that came out, I insisted that my attorney counter it, to something. I mean, this was just bizarre.
Did he?
No,
Did he
she
or
didn't.
she? I don't know.
No.
So
No.
guardian ad litem.
We'll take care of that at trial. See.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's how. And so but at that point, I'm still a believer.
Yeah.
I'm still a believer that justice is somewhere down there, and the truth always comes out. It always, it'll eventually.
What was the conclusion though? That you lose some of your parenting time?
Yes.
As a direct result of that
Yeah.
one individual. So, regardless of what the Supreme Court says, that guardian ad litem can trump a Supreme Court decision saying that equal parenting is the best interest of the child?
Yes.
So, a guardian ad litem has more power than the Supreme Court rulings.
It appears so. And when we went, he wanted to change the parenting plan. The legal requirement to make any changes to the parenting plan had clearly not been met, and that was agreed upon by both attorneys and the judge. And yet a guardian ad litem was able to come in and unravel the whole thing. And
How much did you pay that guardian ad litem?
Oh boy, that was probably the most expensive. I think I'm probably up to about $5,000.
How did they get past the first 1,000 when statute says each case is only allowed up to 1,000?
They're not done with their investigation.
So they asked for an extension. Did
Over
they ask,
and over again.
Did they ask for the extension prior to their conclusion?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Did they bill in advance?
In advance of the conclusion of the...
In advance of work done? We're going to require a certain amount of hours, so we're going to bill you in advance. And we need approval of the courts.
The initial is advance, but then the rest is ongoing.
And that got it. And what judge said that's okay?
Paul Moore.
Interesting.
Yeah. And Paul Lawrence, for that matter, because we're now, we're carrying on so long that we're now overlapping judges at this point.
Again, you've not been adjudicated as an unfit parent.
No.
And this guardian ad litem can just come in and trump Supreme Court over and over again. The Supreme Court has said that equal parenting for the children is in the best interest of the child. Is your house a mess?
No.
Okay.
No.
I mean,
They don't have to get, in fact, the guardian ad litem...
Do you feed your kids?
Yeah.
I'm
like
being
I'm like, the poster soccer mom. That's but this guardian ad litem was actually put when this it didn't get resolved. It ended up going to trial. What they call is a trial, which is really just a one-man tribunal. The guardian ad litem was put on the stand first, and he spent an entire day of just a guardian ad litem, and he could not answer one question.
And you have the transcripts of that?
Yes. Yes, and in fact, I have it on DVD specifically because I'm not done with it.
And so you can buy those transcripts for about $15, $25?
It's $25 to have it, per...
I'm asking this for a reason because people going through the process don't even realize that they can get the transcripts for the courts.
Oh, yes.
And when a guardian ad litem contradicts themselves or cannot find answers, and the court still ruled in their favor of their...
Yes. Yeah, and it was really at that trial that I realized that something was terribly wrong. That's when the enlightenment started to hit me, was when it was very surreal, sitting there, watching this trial just unfold in front of me and watching the guardian ad litem testify, and the judge sitting up there not paying any attention to what was going on, not at all. In fact, my attorney had to stop the proceeding because he was, you know, busy doing something up there, and she just literally just, you know, excuse me. And he said, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, go ahead, yeah, I'm listening. And here, the balance of my children's lives is on the table. And the guardian ad litem couldn't answer one question. He didn't remember how old our boys were. He couldn't remember where they went to school. He couldn't remember, he didn't have to, and it was apparent, too. You could see that he knew that he didn't have to answer anything. There was no, you know, any kind of concern or nervousness or, you know, shuffling through notes, you know, well, you know, hold on, let me get that for you, or, you know.
Who was this guardian ad litem?
Bruce Wexler.
Bruce Wexler.
Bruce Wexler.
And where was he found? Your husband recommended him?
No, he was appointed by the court. And I didn't want... Wexler.
Wexler.
Yeah,
okay. Bruce
Wexler is out of Derry. And at that point, I had said, when I first met him, I did not get a good feeling about that at all. And I asked my attorney, do I have to sign the stipulation? And she said, well, if you don't, the court will order you, which is true.
It's a forced agreement.
Well, the court will order you, but that doesn't mean that you have to contract with anybody.
Did you request a first refusal so that you could have another one that you could both agree upon?
No.
Okay.
No. My attorney was set on this My attorney was set on this guardian ad litem.
Mm. And who was your attorney again?
Barbara Griffin.
Barbara Griffin. Any relationship? Do they work together with this guardian ad litem?
Well, yeah. After a while, I kind of had to wonder about that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to move the story along just a little bit further. So this didn't work out. Did the parenting change a little bit?
Yes, it did. My oldest son, through the secret envelope, they're expressing their preferred schedule.
All right. That's where I want to camp out just for a minute. The guardian ad litem produced a secret envelope.
Yeah.
And
3 of them.
These secret envelopes, let me guess, went before the judge, and the judge made a ruling. You don't know what's in that secret envelope, but they took your children a little bit more. You're not able to face what was in that and who generated that what was in that document. All you know is there is a document. There could be something in it, or there might not be. But you're being denied to face your accuser. You're being denied the access of your children's health, mental health. If there's something mentally health, there's a problem here.
Yep. That was through the counselor's statement. Yeah, I wasn't allowed to know.
You're not allowed to see what's in those 3 envelopes.
Yeah.
But those 3 envelopes are able to take your sons away from you. Not fully yet.
No.
All right. So there's something in there, and you still don't know. And the judge said, "What? I have 3 things in an envelope saying, you know, I need to make a decision on this. So we're going to adjust the parenting plan based upon what is in the secret little envelope."
And that was going to be at the conclusion of the trial, though.
You are not the first. There was a number of other cases, and it's actually gone before committees, and it's gotten shot down that you know, well, they're worried about the third party, but yet still your civil rights are being violated.
And my children.
And your children's civil rights. They're being denied access to their mother by the family court. Can you go to the judge and say, hey, look, you're really off base here? What would that judge do?
You can appeal. You know, you write the judicial...
How much does it cost you to appeal? A lot.
A good $12,000 probably.
So if you want your children, you're going to have to appeal to a higher court, and it's going to cost you more money, and you're going to feed into this system, this corporation. I get a little upset because I know where this is going. I've seen this over and over and over again, and nobody is holding these people accountable.
There's no way to hold them
There is a
accountable.
way. There is a way. And the legislature needs to get involved. We passed CACR 26 years back, taking away the administrative rules of the courts. It's a must, because now the courts can make rules that only they have to abide by. It allows judges to make rules that have the force and the effect of law. Article 73A was instituted into our Constitution in 1978. These are part of the consequences, because how do we hold these people accountable? How do we hold these judges accountable when they violate your civil rights and your children's civil rights? Where do you go? Who do you turn to? So now, these guardian ad litems, you said there was 5 guardian ad litems.
Yeah, that was, now the next one, because we had actually a guardian ad litem in between this last one that did that, and she ended up quitting on us.
Any callings of, there's some domestic violence, anything like that?
Well, the only thing actually was on their father with the guardian ad litem that quit on us. And he had got into a physical altercation with our oldest son and nearly put him down a flight of stairs. And because my oldest son wasn't willing to say derogatory things about me. And so the guardian ad litem was taking that as, he seems to be parroting what the mother is saying, when really he was not happy with the fact that his dad was saying bad things about me. So he was defending me.
Parental alienation is basically taking place here, and really that is a crime against the children. That is domestic violence against the children. But that's another topic. We've covered this topic before. But I want to move forward to the next guardian ad litem. So how much was it adjusted with this current one that we're talking about now, your parenting plan? Your older son went to live with?
Went to primarily with his father, and then we had a 50-50 schedule with our youngest son.
When did you see your older son?
I saw him every other weekend and Wednesday evenings. However,
So you denied full 50% with him during the week?
Yes. And the Wednesdays, though, I rarely got to exercise because the parenting plan said that as long as my oldest son had an activity, that trumped my parenting time.
And of course, there's a history of him not showing up and dropping off the kids.
So there was always something planned for Wednesday evening. So even to, he plays soccer, so he'd have soccer practice after school on Wednesdays. I would have to have him back, back to his dad's at 7 o'clock, but he had time. I lived right there, I lived a mile from the school. He could, come home and have dinner, and then I could take him to his dad's. But then it became so that I wasn't even allowed to do that because he had an activity for the day. It didn't matter that it ended before my parenting time ended. It just, because of the wording of the parenting plan, he got to exercise it that way.
And the judge at this time still is Judge Moore?
It's Judge Moore, yeah.
Okay, so now the next situation, this is obviously, your eyes are, you spent thousands, you're up to like 7,000,
I decided
8,000.
not to appeal because I don't think, not only it's just not financially doable at this point, but it wouldn't have rendered any change, and that's hard to swallow.
How did another guardian ad litem get into the picture?
Well, this guardian ad litem actually lingered for quite some time, even after the trial. So, but eventually that went to the wayside. I fired my attorney and decided that I was going to figure out how they were doing this. I was going to learn how the courts were able to do this, because there was no justice involved at all.
They're your children, they're your sons.
Yeah, there was no...
It happens to men too, so this happens to men all the time, but it also happens to women.
Yeah.
And people have to understand, this isn't just a man issue, and we got to get off that, because it's happening to women. And I wanted to jump in and say that, because I'm hearing stories all the time. The men, I get it, and for them, you know, when your son is taken away from you, you got to chill, because inside, that's your baby. That's your, you know, I was laid on my chest. I fed him. I played with him. I loved him.
Yeah.
And you take him
Especially
away?
when they're being fed, you know, lies, you know, that...
Well, and there's that activity. And so the point is, there's emotions on both sides. It happens to both men and women, and it's critical to understand that. But you're describing what happens to a man, just the same way as what's happening to you. So let's just get off that kick for the people, my viewers. It really is an equal opportunity discrimination and civil rights abuse.
Yeah.
So this next guardian ad litem gets put on the picture.
Well, he was ordered, but I refused, you know, because I now know that I don't have to contract with a guardian ad litem. I no longer want to contract with the court. They haven't held up their end of the deal. The original contract with them back in 2006 with the original parenting plan, I did, and they failed to remain the status quo. That's the court's job. I built my life on that parenting plan. We bought a home in Bedford. We agreed for our boys to be schooled a certain way. I have a job here. We set up our life to follow through on that parenting plan, and it's not easily, undone. So, no, I was counting on the court keeping that in place, and they pulled the rug out from under me altogether. So, and then when you know that the court doesn't abide by any rules, not even their own rules.
There is a rule that they have.
I know.
Rule 1.2.
I know, but they don't tell you that when you first sign up,
Excuse me.
That should be a disclosure right there at the front door, but you don't learn that until you're way down the path.
By the way, rule 1.2 is waiver of rules. It's not funny, but it's funny. Look it up. New Hampshire, it's in the journal.
You
Rule
wouldn't believe it.
1.2.
If somebody told you that, you wouldn't even believe it, but it's true.
In the interest of justice, we'll waive the rules. And at first, it was meant to be a good thing. Wow, you're late for the court, you didn't bring your documents. Okay, we'll waive those rules. But it's turned into something totally different now.
Now when you have hard evidence to counter what's being said about you in court, they get to ignore it. They get to flat out ignore it. Yeah, so they don't have to, go by either Constitution, state or United States Constitution. They don't need to, they just make up their own rules. The rule is they can make up their own rules, and then they don't even have to follow those if they don't want to.
So who is the head of all these family courts? Is there one particular judge that kind of overlooks them all?
Well, Ed Kelly.
Ed Kelly.
Yeah, so he's the Chief Justice of the Circuit Court. So
has anybody complained to him? Does he know what's going on?
I'm sure he knows. He hasn't gotten my personal complaint. I don't really have any faith that that's going to go anywhere for me. So I'm kind of at my next step, and I don't really know what.
We have another guardian ad litem. You had two more, right?
There's one that I have now told him that I do not wish to contract with him.
Okay,
yeah.
And now how's that working out for you?
Well, he has then filed a motion with the court saying that he not only needs an extension to on the deadline to submit his preliminary report, but that because I've refused to sign the stipulation and submit half of his retainer, that he's refusing to go forward until he gets his full retainer. So I don't know where that other $600 is going to come from, if the court's going to give it to him, but I haven't given him permission to engage with my children.
Are you still seeing your children?
I don't see them at all anymore, no.
You do not see your children
No,
anymore?
no.
So you either pay up or you don't see your children?
It's extortion.
You have not done anything illegal?
No.
But this forced contract says, equal parenting, you're going to have to pay this. Otherwise, we're going to hold your children, your sons, as ransom.
Yep.
How's that working out for them? This is tough. I know this is tough. But when you start bucking the system because it's violating your civil rights, they hold your children as ransom. You're not the first. There are people that have come before the House, and there are many state representatives that are scratching their heads, and they're thinking, what is this? These are all isolated cases? They're not.
Yeah.
They're happening everywhere.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you are feeling like you're all alone. This is what happens. This is a scenario. They beat you down. They take your money. They hold your children as ransom. And I say the courts. And they hold your children as ransom until you pay up or you comply. And if you don't play ball, obviously, then you lose your sons.
Yep. And they threaten incarceration.
And they
if you don't pay.
And they have done that, and they've actually put people in jail, all because you didn't sign a forced agreement.
With no ability to pay.
And your children are being, the audacity, but they're getting away with it because there's no accountability with our courts, and they cannot be trusted to govern themselves.
No.
Because when they violate your civil rights, and I keep expressing that, they're violating your civil rights. They're violating equal protection under the law. Not only your rights, but the children's rights, all in the name of what is in the best interest of the child. Over and over and over and over again, this is happening to individuals. And you feel isolated. Who do you talk to? Where do you go? And I'm not trying to overstep it. I'm not trying to put words into your mouth, but these are the expressions that people are bringing up over again. You could be a multi-millionaire. I've seen it happen. A guy with hundreds of millions of dollars. They picked on the wrong guy. He's still fighting him. Mike Gill. Say what you want. But when you hold a child at ransom, game over. People act funny. They're part of you. You created them. What gave the courts the right to take what you made? What right do they have to come in and take your property? You made that child.
They claim jurisdiction.
Well, they need to be challenged.
Yeah.
But you're not alone. And that's what people feel like, what have I done wrong? What have I done? Yeah, you spoke up. You pushed it back a little bit. You say, wait a minute.
Well, there again, too, the children end up, being made to feel like one of their parents has done something wrong, too.
Right.
And that's something that I have to address with them, too, is that,
There are countless psychologists across the country which will show the long-term damage done to these children. More crimes are committed because of children that have been alienated from their parents.
Yeah.
More violent crimes. And this is how they react, because something dear to them has been taken by the system that's supposed to protect them. There needs to be change, and there needs to be change right away. There needs to be an urgent change, and it's people like you that can speak up, that have the courage to speak up. These judges are not invincible. They're not, and they need to be held accountable. So you're not seeing your children now.
No, now 3 weeks.
In 3 weeks.
And I have a hearing on January 12th, but I'm still, they will not recognize me as a woman before the court. They're refusing to recognize my status. I don't want to be represented.
What does that mean?
I'm trying to move my case under the common law, exercise my 7th Amendment right. I want a trial by jury. I don't want the court, a one-man tribunal, to decide, and a guardian ad litem, to decide what is best for me and my children. I have a right to exercise my 7th Amendment right to move my case under the common law. and that means a trial by jury. I've asked for my case to be sent back over to the Superior Court where it started. Back in 2006, everything was in Manchester, the Superior Court, and then it was after that that they divided the family cases to distribute them amongst the district courts. I want my case to go back
to another court,
Yeah.
to another court, and sometimes the evidence doesn't follow. The judge has got to be brought up to speed. You don't know what's happening, and they're making a critical, life-changing, altering
Yeah.
thing to you and to your children.
Yeah.
And well, you know, go ahead, talk. Right?
Yeah, and I can't even describe the feeling of just unfolding in front of your and right in front of you, like you're not there. Of course, then when you're represented, you aren't there. You know, it's your attorney that's and you're watching your life just kind of float by, and there's nothing you can do about it.
It's amazing that some of these attorneys they need to be brought up to speed.
Yeah.
Because just because they have an attorney behind their name doesn't mean that they're going to be there to.
No, and it's even worse when you're paying your own attorney and they're part of the problem.
Right.
They're facilitating it, and when you're putting that, you know.
Well, we've heard over and over again on this program and in committees where attorneys have said, "Listen, you're right. You're getting violated. The judge is completely wrong. But if I represent you and I buck the system, I'll never work in this court again."
Oh no, yeah.
If you go and talk on a TV show, speak up, or I'll never work. My cases I'll never win. How do you win in family court?
There is no winning in family
Right.
court. No.
So, but I guess the point is they'll punish those that buck the system, those that actually defend you.
Yeah. So why would you want an attorney? And why would you want to go in a venue where there's no rules, and you'd be better off and probably have better chances to spin in a wheel?
The New Hampshire House and Senate passed CACR 26 in 2010 or 11 or in
12.
in
Was it
12.
Okay.
It passed because all these cases came up. It passed, but the people didn't know what it was about. What is it about? It's about making the courts accountable on some level, bringing back the natural history of the courts, administrative rules brought back to the people so that the people have a say. As of now, the courts have nobody to answer to, and they're autonomous. They're not answerable to the people, and that's not how our original founders intended. If you look at your history, the courts have been revamped a couple of times in history.
Oh, yes.
Because of corruption. And when you have absolute...
5 times, I think it is.
and when you have absolute control like that, it breeds corruption and civil rights. And that's where this has to go.
Yeah.
Because the Supreme Court has settled this over and over and over again. And who is going to hold these courts accountable? Obviously, they can't govern themselves.
No. No. Well, and they're overseeing themselves. And then you have the judiciary is able to make rules to supersede law. Then you have 2 branches of government that are making law.
Right. Well, Article 73A, that the Supreme
Article
Court Justice
73A,
shall
yeah.
have administrative rules over the courts. It seems like a no-brainer. The last line, such promulgated rules shall have the force and effect of law. Excuse me. How can we give that much power to a judge that's not accountable to anybody to make rules that have the effect of law, violate individuals' rights, and there's no accountability? Yeah. Who do you go to? Jail card? Do you go to the PCC, the JCC? They're feckless. They do nothing.
Yep. So
the people need to start taking action because these are your children. You don't look like you're a violent person.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Are you an alcoholic?
No.
Yeah. I mean, that's a blunt question, right? But the point is you're good people. There has to be some kind of checks and balances with these people. You can't take children. I'm getting preachy at you, but I've heard this. I've heard this over and over and over again, and you're not alone. So
it's only been 3 weeks for me.
That's a long time.
I know, but you know, I've met a lot of wonderful people through this journey, and their stories are just horrific. You know, it's been, you know, 5, 7, 10 years since they've seen their kids, and they've really been an inspiration to me in going through this. I'm here for them. It's not just about my story anymore. And I'm not afraid of anyone. I'm not afraid of the court system at all. I want to. This has to change. This has to change. This is destroying families, and I think it's set up to do that. I really do. That's what I believe.
There's a missing piece of the puzzle, and I'm not really sure what it is. Is it, you know, the judges aren't getting paid directly through this, but what's feeding this? What's feeding this? How is this not getting public attention? Where is the media? Where's Channel 9? Where's Channel 9? Come on. We have the redress committee. We had people being violated, and you folks never showed up. You never showed up. You never showed up. Yeah. Why? What is going on? And it's time. It's time for people to start speaking up more and more.
This isn't just affecting just, you know, the family court. That this is something that's going to end up on everybody's doorstep at some point in time, in some form. But I know when you're having family issues like this and you're divorced, people tend to retreat from you,
right.
And it becomes instantly lonely. You have a plague that people just don't want, and that unfortunately includes people at your church. I'm sorry to say, and that's probably the most painful part of it.
When your support system totally drops out.
Yeah, because you don't get this unless you're close to a family that's happening to, or you yourself are going through it. It's so hard to convey to people exactly what this is, and they can't fathom it at all.
Right. So you're not going to judge somebody that has AIDS. You're not going to judge somebody that has an alcoholic problem. You're not going to judge. But when it comes to divorce, it has a stigma.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, they become a taboo, and you do feel alone.
Yeah. And having your kids taken from you has a stigma too.
Especially being a woman.
Yes. Because people automatically think that you must have done something bad to have your kids taken from you.
And with the man, well, he's either violent, or he's false accusations, or with the woman, there's got to be something wrong, and they never look at the judicial system, which needs some attention. Yeah. I got 47 seconds. I thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Are you reaching out for help? Or are you looking for somebody to help you? If so, how
like I said, we've had just some wonderful encounters. When I first started on my path, trying to learn how this was working and how they were doing this, I luckily, to my husband's despair, I got on the web, and I've encountered some of the most wonderful people I've ever had in my life, quite honestly. Yeah. So, there's been some wonderful things come from it.
Well, thanks for coming on Speak Up.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. And thanks for watching Speak Up, and we hope that this helps you understand what's really going on. Thank you for watching Speak Up, and we want to thank our sponsor, Avard, the Dean of Clean, the carpet cleaner in the Nashville area. If you want to contact them, call 603-521-7657. Thanks for watching.
Every day, citizens around the country are faced with new dilemmas. Dilemmas that affect them profoundly. Whether it's injustice, discrimination, falling through the cracks, scandals and cronyism, balances of power, ethics, religious freedoms, state versus citizens, and unfunded mandates, and the list goes on and on and on. Welcome to Speak Up. It's directed at those who have fallen through the cracks, and it gives them a voice. It's your turn to speak up, to stand up and fight back.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.